Wolverine is a superhero in the Marvel Universe and an iconic member of the X-Men, as well as becoming a member of the Avengers. When he was a young man, James Howlett discovered he was different when claws popped out of his hands and ran away from home, becoming a hardened outsider. He eventually became a soldier, gaining the attention of Weapon X, who intended to turn him into a living weapon. After escaping, he ended up joining the superhero team Alpha Flight before finally finding a family with the mutant team of heroes who fight for civil rights, the X-Men. Elizabeth Howlett. James Howlett spent most of his youth as a weak child with health issues. His mother was largely emotional absent following the death of her first son John, Jr. The trauma had caused her to be institutionalized for a time, while his father was under constant pressure by his grandfather to enforce cruel discipline, which he referred to as firm by fair. However, what John Howlett and James didn't know that Elizabeth had an affair with the caretaker, Thomas Logan, and that James was in fact Thomas Logan's biological child. James grew up making friends with Thomas' other son Dog and a girl named Rose, who was sent to the Howlett estate. After being thrown off the Howlett's property for violent actions perpetrated by Dog, Thomas returned to Howlett Manor and, with his son, attacked the residents and murdered John Howlett. In retaliation, young James attacked Thomas, only to find that he has gutted him with claws of bones that had out of his knuckles. What James was unaware of was that he was a mutant, as they were extremely rare and largely unknown at the time, but soon found that both the deformity and James' violent actions caused James' mother to cast him out before killing herself. He fled with his childhood companion, Rose, who was brought to his estate to keep him company, and grow into manhood on a mining colony in the Yukon Territory, adopting the name Logan. Logan made friends and grew both strong, both from work and abilities he slowly discovered, including enhanced hearing and sense of smell, and wild, from his wilderness surroundings and ability to adapt thanks to his newfound abilities, during his time at the mining camp. However, when Smitty, the Ming foreman, became impressed with Logan, even nicknaming him Little Smitty, the camp's chef Cookie Malone, who was Smitty's favorite previously, became jealous to the point of cutting Logan and Rose's rations, attempting to kill Logan in the mines with dynamite, which failed but resulted in the deaths of 5 men, and attempted to brutalize him in a cage match fight. Logan was later approached by Dog, who was ordered by James' grandfather to bring him home, but during a fight between the two, Rose got involved and ended up impaled on Logan's claws. Logan left the colony in shame and lived for a time in the wilderness among a pack of wolves. Logan lived with a wolf pack, finding a strange form of inner peace despite being feral. This lasted until his pack was killed by a mutated polar bear, created by the mad scientist Nathaniel Essex, though he did not know it at the time. Wolverine was able to kill the beast but nearly died in the process. After his wolves were killed, Logan was captured by a couple, Saul Creed and his sister Clara, at the behest of a circus owner named Hugo. Promoted as the missing link, Clara suspected there might be more to this wild man, but Logan remained passive, accepting his abuse, possible out of despair following all of his losses. Nathaniel Essex heard of this missing link and, believing it to be his target, invited Hugo to his estate under the claim that he would verify if this missing link was real. When the missing link and Hugo arrived, Essex murdered Hugo and began performing cruel experiments and vivisection on Logan. Clara and Saul rescued Logan and Clara began spending time with Logan, teaching him to become civilized again. However, when Clara and Logan began a relationship, Saul was jealous and captured Logan and sold him to a circus, where he was an abused freak called the Clawed Man of the Woods. Essex eventually kidnapped Logan and experimented on his ability to heal but was rescued by Clara and the reluctant Saul. Later, Logan returned to civilization, residing with the Blackfoot people. Following the death of his Blackfoot lover, Silver Fox, at the hands of Sabretooth, he was ushered into the Canadian military during WWI. Logan then spent some time in Madripoor, before settling in Japan, where he marries Itsu and has a son, Dakin, that initially Logan doesn't know about because later Itsu was burned with the house with her son, but Dakin had his father's healing factor. During World War II, Logan teams up with Captain America and continues a career as a soldier of fortune and adventurer. He then serves with the enduring 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, and the CIA, before being recruited by Team X, a Black Ops unit. Being a member of Team X, he is gave false implants. Later on he joins the X-Men, where he falls in love with Jean Grey and has done lots of stuff that is too much to write here. Later on a trip to Japan, he defends a woman but began to lose his healing factor from a Japanese soldier he saved earlier in his life. Mutant physiology. Logan is a mutant who had been given an adamantium skeleton by the Weapon X program. Nick Fury's intel classified him as power level 9, while the ONE classified him as a severe threat. Regenerative healing factor. Wolverine's body naturally regenerates most, if not all, damaged or destroyed tissues and organs at a rate which exceeds that of any normal human. The rate of regeneration is proportional to the damage caused. This process is automatic, and Wolverine seems to have no control over it. His healing factor, however, does not seem to stop Wolverine from feeling the pain of his wounds nor the pain of his body regenerating itself. The speed at which he heals has fluctuated considerably in recent years. After first losing his adamantium, Wolverine's healing factor recovered and increased to a level far above his previous norm. However, it was significantly reduced after his last encounter with Lazar, the Angel of Death. Its current effectiveness, after losing the healing factor, dying, and being resurrected with it intact, has not yet been compared to past values. Contaminant immunity. Wolverine's natural healing also affords him virtual immunity to poisons, viruses, diseases, and most drugs. For example, it is extremely difficult for him to become intoxicated from alcohol. It can be accomplished with extraordinary amounts of alcohol, and even then, the entire cycle of intoxication and hangover can be completed in mere minutes. Wolverine's healing factor has cured him of the mystical curse of lycanthropy after he had been bitten and turned into a werewolf, and from vampirism, though it should be noted that the time it took to cure the werewolf curse was longer than the time it took to cure him of vampirism. When he was infected with vampirism, he had also been infected with nanites to temporarily deactivate his healing factor and use him as a booby trap on the vampires. Fatigue resistance. Wolverine is partially resistant to fatigue poisons produced from physical activity, decelerated aging. In addition, Wolverine's healing factor provides him with an extended lifespan by slowing the effects of the aging process. Wolverine was born sometime during the late 19th century. Although well over 100 years of age, Wolverine retains the health, appearance and physical vitality of a man in the physical prime of his life. Telepathic resistance. Wolverine has stated to Emma Frost that he is resistant to telepathic probing, from both level 9 pounds per square inch shields implanted by Professor Charles Xavier and his healing factor creating mental scar tissue blocking it. Resists Emma Frost's mental command. A telepath enters his mind, and his berserker psyche acts as a defense. Quire telepathically abducts his mind, and his body goes feral to hunt Quire down. Retractable bone claws. Wolverine's skeleton includes 6 retractable foot-long bone claws, 3 in each arm, that are housed beneath the skin and muscle of his forearms. Wolverine could, at will, release these slightly curved claws through his skin between the knuckles on each hand. The bone claws are naturally sharp and tougher than normal human bone. Even before they were infused with adamantium, they could penetrate most flesh and many natural materials. After augmentation, his bones became indestructible and his claws are capable of piercing any material, relative to its thickness and the force Wolverine can exert. The adamantium bonding process which affected his bones effectively transformed them into a new alloy called adamantium beta, which, combined with his healing factor, prevents his adamantium skeleton from interfering with his bone marrow's production of blood cells. Wolverine can unsheath any number of his claws at once, although he needs to keep his wrists straight at the moment his claws pass from his forearms into his hands. When unsheathed, the claws are entirely within his forearms, allowing him to bend his wrists when they are extended. Hot claws. A new facet of his adamantium-tipped claws upon his resurrection is to cause them to heat up several thousand degrees in seconds, a trait which is seemingly tied to Wolverine's berserker rage. How hot they can get remains a mystery, but they can reach high enough temperatures to cause gasoline to ignite on contact with it. Superhumanly acute senses. Wolverine's superhuman senses are a combination of a separate mutant ability and his healing factor, since his sense organs atrophy at a much slower rate than normal humans. His most improved senses are sight, hearing and smell. Due to those enhanced senses, Wolverine has claimed he can function in complete darkness as though it were daylight. Superhuman hearing. Wolverine is capable of hearing sounds from a far greater distance than any human, and is said to be less developed than Daredevil. Superhuman sight. Wolverine's sight is improved, allowing him to see further than a normal human. Superhuman smell. Wolverine's sense of smell is even more magnified and allows him to recognize and track objects and people just by smell alone. Daredevil once posited that Wolverine's sense of smell is slightly more developed than his. Superhuman taste. Wolverine can distinguish individual ingredients in food or drink he consumes at a smaller part per volume than a normal person. Superhuman touch. Wolverine's sense of touch gives him greater sensitivity to air direction and temperature differentials in his environment. He is able to sense Cyclops' incoming power beam based on the shift in air pressure that precedes its arrival. Superhuman strength. Wolverine's reinforced skeleton allows him to withstand high levels of physical pressure. His strength is also boosted to enhanced levels, allowing him to lift more than 800 pounds but no more than 2 tons. Superhuman speed. Wolverine is able to move at low-level superhuman speeds. He has attacked faster than the eye could follow, and even Spider-Man briefly thought Wolverine was faster than he was in their first fight. His combat speed seems more enhanced than anything else, as he has frequently kept up with Spider-Man in combat, and blitzed people before they pulled their trigger fingers. Superhuman stamina. Wolverine's healing factor grants him superhuman stamina and is partially immune to fatigue toxins generated by physical exertion, and thus has greater endurance than actual humans. His stamina has been described as metahuman, indicating the ability to continually exert himself for several days at peak efficiency. Superhuman durability. Wolverine has superhuman durability due to a combination of his healing factor and adamantium skeleton. Enhanced reflexes and agility. Wolverine's reflexes and agility are enhanced beyond the capabilities of the normal human body. On several occasions, he was able to dodge Cyclops' optic blasts with ease, although this is partly due to his enhanced senses. Animal empathy. Wolverine has been seen to be able to understand the emotions of animals around them and communicate with them on a very basic level. Wolverine has been seen to be able to show animals his intentions and actions so he would not be perceived as a threat to them. Berserker rage. When injured enough, Logan becomes a feral berserker with no sense of thought or morale, reduces the feeling of pain and flood his system with adrenaline. Forge has remarked on Wolverine's ability to retain his sophisticated combat skills even while berserking. His tactical awareness is also heightened in this state, allowing him recognize attacks and projectiles coming at him from almost all directions. Boosts his strength up to 4 or 5 tons, push past his physical limits, briefly making him faster. Does days of non-stop combat compressed in minutes, although the effort exhausts him. In this state, Logan becomes a savage animal who completely ignores pain and attacks with a savage ferocity he is not normally capable of. Abilities skill tracker. Due to his superhuman sense, Wolverine is considered to be one of the world's most skilled trackers. Above normal intelligence. Wolverine has an above-normal level of intelligence. Expert leader. He also ran the secret mutant strike team known as X-Force to ensure mutant can survival by employing lethal force. Wolverine stepped in once again as the field leader of X-Force, an intelligence organization in charge of special operations to counterattack assaults against Krakoa. Master martial artist. Wolverine has mastered 15 forms of martial arts and mastering 28 forms of kung fu alone. Due to his age and experience, Wolverine has taught many heroes some form for fighting. These include the Black Widow, Rogue, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Primal, Sunspot, Armor, Jubilee, Rachel Summers, Phoebe Cuckoo, and Shadowcat. In hand-to-hand combat. Weapons expert. Wolverine is a trained expert with many guns, blades, explosives and other weaponry due to his experiences as a soldier, samurai, spy and mercenary. Computer and vehicles expert, Wolverine is trained in the use of several computer systems and vehicle repair as well as being an accomplished pilot. Expert assassin, Wolverine has knowledge of several assassination techniques. Multilingual, a polyglot. Wolverine is fluent in many languages including English, Japanese, Russian, Mandarin, Cheyenne, Lakota, Spanish, and Krakoan. Logan also has some knowledge of Farsi, French, German, Korean, Thai, and Vietnamese. Notably, he is also one of the few individuals who has demonstrated the ability to understand to speak. Adamantium-laced skeleton, not part of his natural mutant attributes. Wolverine's entire skeleton, including his bone claws, were laced with the rare, artificial, and virtually indestructible metal alloy known as adamantium, or true adamantium. As a result, Wolverine's bones are virtually unbreakable. The presence of the adamantium has further enhanced the already razor-sharp edge of Wolverine's bone claws. Aside from being practically indestructible, the claws are capable of cutting through any solid material, with the known exception of proto-adamantium, Captain America's shield. However, Wolverine's ability to slice completely through a substance depends upon the thickness of the substance and the amount of force he can exert. The adamantium also weighted his blows, dramatically increasing the effectiveness of his punches and kicks. His claws is able to damage Class 100+ durability foes such as the Thing. His adamantium claws has been shown to easily penetrate Thanos' chest. Adamantium Beta. Adamantium beta is a metal that can bond to the human skeleton. The properties of adamantium beta is capable of bonding directly into the structure of skeletal material while not inhibiting the living nature of the bone. The only known occurrence of adamantium beta was during the Weapon X project when it was experimented on Wolverine. During the second part of the procedure, they laced his bones with adamantium, and there was a reaction with his healing factor that bonded the metal with his skeleton. As a result from Dr. Jaime Munoz's research, the adamantium itself can regrow just as Wolverine's natural bones can. Muramasa Blade, an indestructible ancient sword with mystical properties, according to Wolverine, is the only thing in the world that can put him down for good, thanks to a piece of his own soul being in it. Can cut through the robot's HIV in a single cut. Also good stopping healing factors. Physical enhancement. Muramasa grants superhuman strength and resistance to injury to whoever wields it. Regeneration bypassing. Anyone struck by Muramasa will suffer from a drastically weakened healing factor on the wound, to the point where it took Wolverine himself several days to recover from a slice from Muramasa. Mind corruption. Eventually, the madness and evil that Muramasa poured into the blade will eventually overcome the will and original personality of an individual if he or she has it for too long. Ablation armor. After losing his healing factor to a microverse virus, Peter Parker developed this suit as a replacement for his lost healing factor. The armor is incredibly resistant. It can withstand a point-blank laser blast and prevent its user from suffering any internal damage, and can presumably withstand a nuclear blast. The armor also possesses 3 retractile claws in each wrist. The armor is apparently fairly easy to copy as Logan has multiple uniforms created presumably in case one is damaged. Equipment. Usually Logan wore a standard X-Men uniform or street clothes. His gloves often had grooves in the forearms so they did not tear when he unsheathed his claws. Weapons. Throughout his life, Wolverine has used a variety of bladed weapons, most frequently daggers and, at times, swords. As a samurai, he was especially skilled with a katana. He has also wielded many different types of firearms throughout his careers as a soldier, a mercenary, and a spy. While he was highly skilled with firearms and because of his perfect eyesight it is very difficult for him miss when firing a gun, he has stated on multiple occasions that he isn't fond of them and prefers to use bladed weapons. Despite this, Wolverine used guns frequently after he lost his healing factor. New Muramasa. After seeking out the ancient swordsmith whom created his prior blade, Wolverine now wields an all-new enchanted katana to participate in the battle for Krakoa.